When I'm involved in brawls, I start glowing. Your broads are like where you're going. What you're holding ain't the cards showing. What's the Brouhaha? What's the Brouhaha? I gotta go, stop your moaning. Gotta push up more weight than Hogan. And stop till I'm on late with Conan. What's the Brouhaha?
What's up, guys? Today I'm just gonna run through some reels and potentially some videos also between Instagram and YouTube, and let's see what it do. All right, so let's jump into it.
Westerners have become second-class citizens in their own countries. Just look at two stories from Canada in the past week. First, a public school in Calgary banned all food from its cafeteria and lunchroom during Ramadan. Despite Muslims making up only a single-digit percentage of the city, the vast majority of students were forced to eat in hallways so the school could foster an inclusive and caring community. Ask yourself what would happen if a public school banned food in order to respect Christianity. Hell, Westerners were told it was inappropriate to even say Merry Christmas, yet now those same Westerners are expected to surrender public spaces so others can practice their religion, which is hostile to them. Second, when Ontario Premier Doug Ford attempted to block an Al-Quds Day rally, an event created by Ayatollah Khomeini after the Iranian Revolution, a judge rejected the request. Compare that to the Freedom Convoy, where the government invoked emergency powers to suspend civil liberties in order to shut down protests against tyrannical COVID mandates. Yet, when a demonstrator at an Al-Quds Day rally makes stabbing gestures at Canadians, the reaction is silence. Look across the Atlantic and the pattern becomes clearer. In the UK, authorities covered up Pakistani grooming gangs that abused thousands of young girls for years because exposing the crimes might undermine the state's multicultural narrative. At the same time, thousands of ordinary citizens are arrested every year for social media posts deemed offensive. One group is jailed for speech. Another receives protection after committing horrific crimes. Meanwhile, Western courts increasingly hand down lighter sentences for violent offenders on the basis of ancestral trauma, whatever that is supposed to mean. In other words, if you were born in a Western country, you can be investigated or arrested for hurting someone's feelings. But if you arrived from elsewhere, you may receive leniency for serious crimes and access to extensive public benefits funded by the very citizens whose rights are shrinking. None of this is compassion. It is the slow inversion of a civilization, where the people who built the institutions are expected to surrender them, apologize for them, and eventually disappear within them. And the longer Western societies pretend that this is virtue, the faster the process will accelerate.
This is the new gynocentric order. That's what's happening out here. Big business wants women out of the home. It's not rocket science. It doesn't take a genius. They spend more than they can even deal with. They're the biggest spenders, and they get men to spend. So that's what we're dealing with right now. Women are spending machines, and big business encompasses universities, politics, messaging, media, entertainment, commerce, anything that's not a commodity for the most part. But the bottom line is women are the biggest spenders. They are more and more out of the home. They're not chaperoned. And so this is our society. This is the new landscape. We have things that we're grateful for. We have electricity, we have infrastructure, heat, plumbing, etc. But the cost of it is we don't have family anymore. We don't have family. All the families that are existing are residual families. That's what's happening out here. When women are within real families, they tend to spend less. So that's what we're all dealing with. That's what we've all been witnessing. That's why we've seen the things we've seen. That's why, listen, I don't want to get too personal, but my family is broken up. It's a matriarchy. It's broken up. My dad passed away. My uncle passed away. And since those two losses, my family has kind of regressed to a matriarchy, and the family fractured. Now, I don't know if they've since reconciled, because I don't keep in touch with them like that anymore. So for my own sake. But this is what we've all been seeing and witnessing, is families are declining and commerce and female influence and power is inclining. That's the bottom line. It's undeniable. And if it's not reversed, if the 19th is not repealed, which is not as controversial as people think, it really isn't. I guarantee you most women don't want to vote, and they don't want the vote. They don't want the responsibility. They don't want to be responsible for the outcomes, especially since it's trending towards something disastrous for the human race, for the human survival, for humans to remain on Earth and survive. They don't want to be responsible for that. So I guarantee it. So it's not as controversial as it seems. Again, big business, media, politics, education, commerce, you name it, big business will try to message and convince you that women want to still be out there voting and running around. But the truth is, I guarantee you that a majority of them don't. And I guarantee you that if men agree, if we don't have a civil war over it, and if men agree, or if most men agree, 60+%, if men agree decisively with a super majority, I guarantee you that there will be no female that will push back against it, that will do anything meaningful. You might have some chicks, some women who might protest, who might be upset for a week or two, guaranteed. But I guarantee you from that point on, they'll be just fine with it. At their core, females are followers. That's just the bottom line. They're not the warriors and the drivers of morality and bottom lines that we've been led to believe. So that's not the issue. The issue is the men who've convinced themselves that they're fighting for women and that they're fighting for equality, etc., when they're really just conditioned and they don't see any other way to get along in the world. And those same residual guys left, those are the ones that are still open to marriage, open to advocating for women in any way that they see possible, thinking that it's meaningful and that it's necessary. These are in a lot of ways, they're like the Uncle Toms of old that would rat out the slaves who were planning on escaping or planning on rebelling. So it's sad that I have to say this, but contrary to popular belief, most men are not murderous violators roaming the streets, assaulting and attempting to destroy females. That's just not the case. So we have to get to a place of reasonableness, and we have to understand that this can't continue. Like, we can't continue this charade. Equal opportunity in the private sector, sure. But in the public sector and government, especially, the female vote and female leadership, female judges, female leadership, female senators, potentially one day a female president, you name it, from the bottom to the top of the governmental apparatus, we're not going to survive it. I might, because I'm about to be 50 and it probably won't affect me. But I tell you, if it's not reversed, if you're 20 and younger, 30, 20 and younger, you're not going to have a country. You're not going to have a nation. You may have AI, you may have some advancements in technology, advancements in material progress, but there will be literally less people, less human beings around to even potentially maintain it or to even have any kind of a society. And listen, I guarantee you that a lot of people don't realize that it's way easier to have an abortion, which in itself is heinous, And we will be remembered as the generation, as the era, well, since the 1970s anyway, we will be remembered as the new Nazis, guaranteed. And just like the people who supported Jim Crow and who supported atrocities before then are now remembered as being on the wrong side of history, those who voted and supported abortion, which includes myself up until 2024, and it makes me sick to my stomach, we will absolutely be remembered as the new Nazis. We surpassed the Nazis and the Bolsheviks and any other atrocity previously. 70 million plus and counting in the US alone. So history will not look kindly on that. So this is what's happening. This is what's happening. Everything he mentioned is a result of big business pushing women outside of the home. That's one layer. And the other layer is the fathers that went along with it for fear of public scrutiny, for fear of losing their livelihood, whether a business or a job, you name it. Placing their daughters in public school, which is a grooming grounds. That's all public school is. It's a grooming ground. No female should be in public school, at least not past 12 years old. At that point, she's being groomed and she's getting used to men that are not her family. That's just the bottom line. And the whole system is to get women outside of the home. And the idea that a female needs to then venture into the world and find a man to potentially marry her, which is majority of females, whether they admit it or not, that's the trajectory. So, and to add with that, 84% of females say they don't want to work, which is really bonkers. And really, it's really bonkers because at this point, listen, I tell you, once a female is out of the home and once she is not chaperoned, she should stay out there. She shouldn't be going home. In fact, her father should disown her. And that may sound extreme and draconian, but there's nothing else for him to do. He can't find her a husband. He can't. So, and herself, for the most part, she can't find herself a husband. And I'm not saying she should be able to. It's everyone else who said that she has the capacity to deal with men. I disagree. And I think it's really torturous and it's really unfortunate and really, really sad. It's actually deeply, deeply sad because women were never meant to deal with men on their own. They were never meant to deal with men on their own. We've all been sold that and told and sold and conditioned to think that that's romantic or that that's the way it should be. That women, junior high school, you name it, should venture out there alone without family, especially without fathers and brothers, etc. And they themselves should be able to deal with men. Yet their primary complaint simultaneously is men, naturally. I'm not saying it shouldn't be, but it's scapegoated and exaggerated. But this is what happens inevitably when you force women to interact with men who they don't know. Now, accidentally, it's worked in the past because of community and because of family. Because even though fathers weren't brokering their marriages overtly, when you knew the neighbors and you had a cookout and you entertained each other and you left each other's pets or kids at each other's house while you renewed vows or took vacations, etc., the kids would get to know each other and eventually they would grow older and marry each other, basically. And that's where the quintessential girl next door pattern comes from. The girl next door mantra. That's where it comes from. That's what has produced the residual families that we see today. But all the individuals attempting to somehow make family today, I would wager that they're not having a great time. Because fundamentally, the husband, the man, the family itself is dealing with unchaperoned women. That's just the bottom line. It's undeniable. It's undeniable. It's not a popular take, but I guarantee you, I'll bet any money that that's what's happening. That's the bottom line to all of this. And it's not a personal attack on women. It's actually inconsequential on the personality or individuality of any one female. That's literally irrelevant. It's the dynamic. It's undeniable because women can't deal with men. They were never designed to deal with men, not only because of the physical disparity in strength and impact, but because of everything that affects. Strength affects your worldview and your thinking. Women and children learn languages quickly. They learn languages quickly. They learn languages faster than men because they're not men. And men are more stubborn because they're dominant. On the broad physical, biological hierarchy or the triangle, men are at the top of the triangle. That's just undeniable. People denying that are at this point psychopathic. You are psychopathic. You're backwards, regressive, psychopathic. So that's what's happening. And the more in denial you are of that, is the more you will suffer in your personal life. You might toe the line in your livelihood, especially if it's corporate, and you might benefit monetarily, career-wise, or business-wise. But in your personal life, I guarantee you, you will suffer, whether you're a female or male. I guarantee it. Because you're trying to force things that are not natural. It doesn't work. Because women and children learn quickly, they're also the most susceptible to messaging and to being compliant and to going along to get along, essentially. That's also, side note, why children are so susceptible to adults and violation. And it's like learning a new language. That's why it's so heinous that LGBTQ tendencies or behaviors is directly born out of violation in adolescent years. That's where it comes from. So again, that's why it's so heinous that gynocentric policies encourage and promote and advertise an LGBTQ lifestyle, LGBTQ awareness to children that are under 12. I don't think that's wise. I don't think that's wise. And I'm not the only one who feels this way. If you scour social media, or if you just go online or just ask friends, they'll tell you if they are of the portion of that community that remembers, because that's a big factor, is those who remember and those who have repressed it and those who have not repressed it. This is what's happening out here. And women are the ones who are the most susceptible to promoting this, because women don't have real boundaries or discernment. They do not. They don't. Everything is permissible. Everything comes from permissiveness when it comes to women. It's about permissiveness. All the issues and problems we're having with the gynocentric society that we are ushering in, that's already here, most would say, all of those problems stem from permissiveness. Women don't push back. They don't fight back. They don't push back. They let it happen. They let illegal migrants come in without vetting. They let criminals go. They champion and promote LGBTQ to children. You name it. All of it. All of this comes from the new gynocentric order. And the more progressive and gynocentric led a nation is, the more severe their problems of not having boundaries, essentially, and not upholding laws and doing what needs to be done to protect society and to have a functioning society. That's the bottom line. We're only being held up by the corners of the society where men are still viable or still present. And that's the dynamic. It's the old guard against the new guard, which is gynocentric. It's female. So that's what's happening out here. It's undeniable. It doesn't matter if you're left or right or short or tall or black or white or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. This is undeniable. This is undeniable. That's where all this stuff is coming from. And the Bible was right, it turns out. The most simplest parts of the Bible. I'm not a Bible thumper. I don't know every intricate story in the Bible, but I know the broad strokes. And right in Genesis, the first metaphor, the first story, or one of the first stories is the Garden of Eden. And Adam follows Eve. And she's easily led or deceived by the snake. And that is universal. That is universal. It's undeniable. It's undeniable. The Bible is just so resonant. It's universal. It's timeless. It's timeless. It's coded. God simply means truth. God means nature's law. So Jesus was the son of the truth. He was the son of natural law, or the son of observable law, or objectivity, truth, justice, constructiveness, instead of destructiveness, instead of lies and regressiveness. That's the devil. That's wicked, backwards, evil, regressive, wrong, lies. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. And heaven is a flow state from adhering to the Bible, or to the dummy's guide to being human. That's all the Bible is. And is deadly accurate. It's deadly accurate. If you go through it in detail, it's pretty much predicting what's happening now. Whether it's Sodom and Gomorrah, or Rome, or you name it, or Egypt, it's predicting what's happening now. Whether it's Noah's Ark, it's predicting what's happening now, or the dynamics at play. This is undeniable. It's just food for thought. We need to wake up as a society, or if not, at least as individuals. If the society as a whole can't be turned around, at least individuals should be aware so they can make better decisions moving forward. Those broad decisions as it pertains to you as an individual, to where you want to live or relocate, and who you want to take with you or not. This is what's happening out here. Is undeniable. So let's take a look at the comments and see what people are saying about this. Because it's funny, there's no one who has exactly the same take as I do, but a lot of people are waking up to the failings of the gynocentric order. I worked as a police officer. That's a little too long, Cater. And I'm currently in Canada. I am an atheist, and I tell you that if you do not seriously engage in electing those who protect your country, you will find yourself strangers in your own land. I understand this well because I fled from Islam and Muslims. They exploit the naivety, naiveness, the naivety of your liberal politicians. Islam has a clear objective, which is to take control of your countries and turn them into destabilized territories where Sharia law is enforced, a system that does not accept coexistence. They do this gradually, and they practice taqiyya, right? Is that okay? Which in their religion permits deception and gradual adaptation until the number of Muslims grows large enough to gain political control. It's not the first time I've heard that from a former Muslim or from a current Muslim. It's not the first time I've heard that. This comment needs to be pinned and noticed. Yeah, I'm telling you. Polar bears are going Muslim. That's funny. Truth, this needs to be said much louder and all over Canada. I find it extremely hard to believe that there could be the same liberal numbers as in past April. I know many have been indoctrinated and brainwashed, but it is not hard to actually see and hear what is happening to our country, even with the help to destroy Canada from the government-paid medias. Carney has to leave Canada permanently. There must be some way to overthrow or override this treason. My goodness. I'm telling you, this is our country's, the US, Canada, you name it. It is a oligarchy, and it is controlled by big business. Lobbying, super PACs, lobbying, all of that stuff It's just ways for big business and big money to infiltrate and control government. It's just that simple. It's that simple. It's not rocket science. And as part of their toolkit is females. It's just that simple. And the men who follow women versus the men who don't, which are in a minority. The men who don't follow women wantonly are in a minority. That's the basic dynamic of everything that's happening out here. I'm telling you, man, that's all that's happening out here. I mean, I am a US based American and I can see this happening. I'm telling you. And it's not just Canada. Oh, so he was speaking for Canada, but that can very well be applied to the US as well as any developed nation. And it's all driven by big business. Big business has painted itself in the corner. And much like the crack dealers of old, like back in the hood, the crack dealers, there were crack valves everywhere in the 80s. And it got to the point where their customers were dying. And so the market was shrinking. And so much like the crack dealers that were just at the fever pitch of greed to the point where all their customers were passing away, that's what's happening now to an extent where we don't have replacement rates. And all of this commerce-driven worshiping of false idols, all this worshiping of brand names and luxury, and this drive to obtain material, wealth, status, you name it, purely without balance is going to cost the future dearly. Again, I'm not sure if I mentioned it previously, but again, it's a lot easier to destroy. It's a lot easier to usher in 70 million abortions since 1973 versus creating 70 million lives that you raise into functional adults, productive adults. Those two things are on two opposite ends of the spectrum, much like good and evil. Isn't that funny? So there might be a place in hell waiting for me, but with my new awareness of what heaven and hell truly are, which is really just on earth, it's just either flow states or it's regression. That's what heaven and hell truly means. And when you die and go to heaven, it's much like saying your former self, your pagan self, your former self, your uninformed self, or your unaware self, your ignorant self, or your lower self dies, quote unquote, dies, and you enter a flow state where everything is hidden and everything is churning along and you're in accordance with nature. That's what heaven is. It's on earth. It's not after you die. We don't know. It doesn't matter what happens after you die. After you die, you go back to where you came from. Where were you before you existed? Where were you? So it doesn't matter what happens after you physically pass. What matters is right now and right here. And it's all about decisions. Decisions based on the truth. But you need to tap into that truth. That's the challenge. I'm telling you. And Moses, Jesus, you name it, Abraham, all these guys, Noah, etc. They were just really smart guys who tapped into the truth, into God. God, it just means truth. I'll bet any amount of money that that's what it means. And if you go back and you go over the Bible again, whether it's broadly or you go into the details, I'm telling you, replace God with truth or with nature's law, and it doesn't break it. It doesn't break it. It still holds true. So, and miracles and such are just elaborate ways of describing how really smart guys outsmarted and outmaneuvered leaders of the time. Pharaoh, Pontius Pilate, or the Roman leadership, the Roman emperor, etc. They were really smart guys that outmaneuvered for the most part. Jesus got caught up, no doubt, but he still ultimately outmaneuvered them, because how ironic that he did conquer Rome. He just used judo. He just used soft power, and it took time. But eventually Christianity dominated Rome. So he did win. Yeah, so it's really crazy when you really dive into it. It's really nuts. So, but anyway, for us, practically, you just got to understand that God just means truth. So God does exist. He does exist. And even he, she, and all, that's just Latin. That's just how Latin works. If you're Spanish and you speak Spanish, you understand that better than, I guess, those who speak English, but that's just Latin. So, but that's what's happening out here. It's just that simple. These guys were just really good storytellers who observed some really smart guys and they had to write it down. And much like Cats in the Hood, everything is hyper. So if some cats will tell you about their trip to the dentist and it sounds like something out of a Wu-Tang album or something. So that's just the human tendency to use hyperbole and to be hyperbolic and to just be magnanimous and epic. And it's all beautiful stuff, but it's very practical. The Bible is just an instruction on being human, and it deals with empires and kings and nature and all of it. So it's worth paying attention to. But the quintessential lesson is never follow women. Women are not made to be followed. They're just not. I'm sorry. They're great mimickers, and mimicking is a great part of learning, but it's not the foundation. It's a great part of learning. Look at AI. It's a great mimicker, but it's not the real deal. It's not the real deal. It's not artificial intelligence. It's algorithms and iterations and large language models, etc., and quantum computing. It's not the real deal. It's not foundational. It's not critically thinking. It's not discovering. It's just aggregating. It's just aggregating what's already pre-existing. So it's not creating anything. And I'm sorry, but most of the inventors are men. That's just the bottom line, because they push the envelope, they critically think, and they challenge and they push, and sometimes they get it completely wrong and they hit rock bottom, and sometimes they go crazy and they become psychopaths, or sometimes they go on the opposite end of the extreme and they become inventors and geniuses. And the average man, and most if not all women, are in the middle, iterating and carrying out and mimicking, which is not shameful. Mimicking isn't shameful. We all mimic. Mimic is a part of learning. You can go far with mimicking. You can make billions of dollars mimicking. So it's not an insult, but we need to just wake up and just understand that this is perfectly fine. But stop trying to react and to think that women need to be equal to men in outcome instead of in opportunity and in civility. Women should be given the same civility that you would give a man or a child or a dog. They should be given the same and afforded the same civility. But civility isn't she should be in government or voting or any of these consequential endeavors. She can make $10 billion in the private sector. I have no problem with that. No problem whatsoever. And no man does, really. Even the supposed misogynist here and there, whatever, he has no problem with that. Once you tell him, hey, if she doesn't make her own money, you have to pay in the form of taxes for either her being a single mother or her not working and being unemployed, etc. And as soon as he hears that, he's like, no, I'm completely fine with her working. No man nowadays has a problem with a female in the private sector. I've had female bosses. Plenty of guys have. We don't care. Nobody cares. But government and leadership, as it pertains to who you send to war, is a different ballgame. And as it pertains to budgeting and policy making and carrying out laws and executing the laws and executing sentences as a judge, etc., it's a complete failure. Women are not made for it. They're just not. They're just not. And listen, I haven't even gotten into the horribleness of having women feel horrible for not being able to measure up to men or deal with men. Women can't deal with men. That's why it's even bittersweet when you're out there and you're fornicating. It's bittersweet. I feel bad for women. I genuinely do. Because we've all been fooled. We were all fooled. I was fooled for 40 plus years of my life. Like, come on. It's convincing messaging. There's no shame in it. I mean, there is. I'm ashamed. But it's convincing messaging, but it's completely bonkers. Brother, this is not, no way. It's just, there's no goddamn way. The first half, you got me. In the first half, I was a fool. In the second half, no way. I'm done with it. I'm telling you, you gotta wake up, man. This isn't the trajectory society wants to go in. You need to come to grips, and we need to start reversing this as best we can. Even if we can't on the governmental level as of yet, fathers absolutely can. And I'll leave that there and I'll get back to it at a later date, because this video is getting too long, but it's food for thought. But that's enough for today. I appreciate anyone that's hearing me out. And don't forget to like and subscribe, comment, and hit the notification bell. And I will catch you on the next one. Peace. Have a good one.